Okay, we're pretty much ready to start here. Our panel's here. Everyone take a seat. Remember to put your phones on silent mode. Okay. Good evening, and thank you very much for coming out tonight for this educational open forum. Could our council please stand up? I see at least three of them are here. Ed London, Oscar Sardinas, and Frank Kaplan. Thank you for being here. Thank you for coming out. This educational open forum is what we're doing here tonight. And what's important is that we have brought here several experts who will give us insight as to some of the dangers our children are facing in the world that we live in, and how we as parents and as residents that we can be more aware and better prepared. We will also talk about some of the measures our village has in place to protect our children. In tonight's forum, residents will have the opportunity to learn from the experts that are here, ask pertinent questions, and connect with our speakers. And be assured that we will be having additional educational forums, as we know parents are wanting to learn more about these matters and those that are related to safety. Even though Key Biscayne continues to be one of the safest communities around, we know that we are not immune from individuals that will try to prey on our children. We look forward to a productive session, and again, I thank you for being here. And now I'll pass the microphone on to Village Manager Steve Williamson, who will provide further information, and then the Chief will introduce our panel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And normally I come out there and walk around, but I'm going to stick back behind the podium tonight just to make sure I get all my words correct. So first and foremost, as the Mayor said, good evening. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. I am glad you have taken your time out of your busy schedules to come and discuss. Now I can't read. Very good. Thank you. So where was I? Thanks, Mr. Councilman. But anyway, to come and discuss. Can you all hear me if I'm holding the mic like this? Yeah. All right, good. Discuss how we all can learn and work together on safeguarding our community. I want to be clear, as the Mayor just said, Key Biscayne is a safe place. We live in a safe place. We take this very, very seriously, and we want to ensure that all of our residents are fully engaged and informed on the situation. The safety and security of our residents is our top priority, especially for our children. We hope that this is a good evening, an opportunity for you to talk about some sensitive subjects, openly, courteously, and respectfully. With all that is going on, and with all that's being said, we want to bring the village and the community together with our professional experts here to my right to talk and discuss about these difficult subjects. This event is a dedicated opportunity that not very many municipalities get, an opportunity to hear from our partners and to gain a clearer understanding of the situation. So as you can see in front of you, the agenda on your left, you can kind of walk through. The Chief will do opening comments. Unfortunately, the FBI would not come tonight, and Chief will explain why they did not make it tonight or wouldn't come. And then we go through some of the other partners that he'll discuss, and Chief will introduce those. But to your right, I want to talk about some of our goals. First one is we want to clarify how investigations are conducted. We want to explain how the village works collaboratively with our network of partners that I have here to my right. We want to discuss how you and your children can be safer in your daily lives. We want to let you know who to contact if you do come across or your family needs some help in these situations. And lastly, I want to announce that we will be reviewing our internal vetting process somewhere through this towards the end of the presentation here. I also want to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, is after each one of these individuals' presentations, we will open our panel up for Q&A. Before I do turn it over to our chief to introduce our guests, I want you to know that we understand how important this topic is to our residents. Safety is the heart of who we are and what we are in Key Biscayne. It is who we are as a village. In the end, we know that public safety is our #1 priority. It is our #1 duty. We have been and we will continue to be transparent in our processes and open in our communication. And I can say with confidence that our police are well-trained, they are well-experienced in investigations. If you combine those skills with our county and state partners, we make a strong team as we collaboratively ensure our safety of our residents. And lastly, I want you to know that I and we are fully committed to ensuring we continue to be the safe and secure village that we all cherish. That we are committed to working and collaborating with our community and our expert partners. And lastly, are we committed to staying vigilant, and this is important, where we all stay vigilant and focused on building a long-term community-driven safety guidelines. Before I turn it over to Chief, I just want to say, we're all in this together. We all have the same goals, and we all have a role to play. So let's talk through this tonight. Let's listen to what our experts have to say. We'll open it up to questions, and let's have a really good conversation on how we, all of us, can protect our residents and make sure we continue to live in a safe and secure environment. So, Chief, turn it over to you.
Good evening, and thank you to all of you that are in attendance tonight. I'm going to reiterate some of the things that the mayor and manager have already said. When I arrived here to Key Biscayne approximately 2.5 years ago, I immediately said to each of you that my #1 goal was the safety and security of everyone in the village of Key Biscayne, but more importantly, the safety and security of our children. It's a priority of mine and my administration, and it's something that we will continue to focus on. As the mayor stated, this is an extremely safe community, and as I stated at the last council meeting, we are not in current danger right now, but also we are not immune to the dangers of society. We cannot think that just because we live in beautiful island paradise that we aren't susceptible to criminals or dangerous behavior coming here. I want to differentiate between two types of investigations because there has been some confusion going on throughout the island. And it's important to note, as I indicated to some individuals that I've met with at the police station, we cannot discuss specifics of certain investigations. But I do want to differentiate between two cases. There's been a lot of chatter of the FBI investigation on our island. So everyone in the room is clear. That is a case that was initiated and solely investigated by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Key Biscayne did not offer any investigative assistance into that investigation. The FBI notified us the day that they made the arrest. They notified us of the seriousness of the charges without specific details. Okay, it is an FBI case. They are solely handling. They are not here because they won't comment on pending investigation. As we're all aware, there was a superseding indictment on Friday. That is being handled by the FBI. Key Biscayne had no role in it. However, I can confirm, after speaking with the FBI on Friday, that there are no Key Biscayne children that are victims in this case. As for the second investigation that we had, we received an allegation in September. That case was investigated by our detectives in conjunction with Miami-Dade Police and the State Attorney's Office. That case was presented to the State Attorney's Office, and at that time, the decision was made that there wasn't going to be prosecution. However, there has been a lot of media interest in this. We have had additional individuals come forward. I can confirm for you that we do have an active and ongoing criminal investigation with the Miami-Dade Police Department and the State Attorney's Office. I would like to take this time to introduce our local partners that we work with on a daily basis. And after I introduce them, I'll allow them to go ahead and give you a brief overview on the services that they provide and how we work with them. In no particular order, from the Miami-Dade Police Department, we have Lieutenant Contreras and Detective Suarez. From the State Attorney's Office, we have Laura Adams, Senior Trial Counsel. We have Alex Martinez, the Deputy Commander over the Human Trafficking Task Force. We have Tanya Ganusa, she's an advocate of the Human Trafficking Task Force. And then we have Maria Guajardo, who works with Thriving Mind South Florida, which is funded by the Department of Children and Families. At this time, I'll turn it over so they can give us a brief overview. Upon the conclusion of their overview, we'll open it up to questions. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lieutenant Contreras, Miami-Dade Police Department, Special Victims Bureau. So I was called upon here to give you some insight as to what the Special Victims Bureau investigates. Our bureau is tasked with investigating sexual crimes, domestic crimes, vulnerable victims, which is any crime committed by a caretaker to those, the elderly or the young. And, okay, sorry. There you go. So vulnerable victims, which is any crime committed by a caretaker to those who are elderly and can fend for themselves, and to young children. We also are in charge of the Sexual Predators Offender Program, which is where the sexual predators and sexual offenders register once they're released from jail. They're tasked with doing address verifications and making sure that they're not in communities or living near any schools where they're not supposed to. As far as sexual crimes, we have one of our senior detectives here, and he'll give you a step-by-step instruction on how his cases evolve from the moment we get a disclosure from a victim till we present the case to the state attorney's office for prosecution.
Good evening. My name is David Suarez. I'm assigned to the Miami-Dade Police Department Sexual Crimes Investigations Unit. So basically, from the time we get assigned this investigation, if it's something that we have to respond immediately, we will respond immediately to handle the investigation. Sometimes it's something where there might be a little bit of a delay, where it's an incident that occurred, let's say, several years ago. Either way, we will make contact with the victim. Anyone that the victim disclosed the incident to, we will speak to them, gather all the facts of the case, and if applicable, we will take further investigative steps from there. The victims are provided with all services as far as therapy and counseling, and then from there, we will interview the subject of the investigation.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. I'm a lawyer. I can't speak when I'm sitting down. It goes back from law school. If you would tell your professor an answer, they would say, if you were sitting down, I cannot hear you. Anyhow, first off, thank you for inviting all of us to be here. When I see so many community members out here after work, when you've got kids, maybe grandkids and all this, this is one of the reasons why this is such a safe community, because you all are so involved. As the state attorney's representative, Catherine Fernandez-Rundle, it's my honor to be here. My name's Laura Adams. I'm a senior trial attorney. I've been with the office just shy of 30 years. It'll be 30 years next week. I am, currently I handle death penalty litigation, so I handle the homicides, the worst of the worst. Homicides of children, homicides of particularly elderly people, homicides by people who have a particularly heinous record. In addition, I oversee the traffic homicide unit. I've handled those types of cases for upwards of 20 years. In my prior life, I worked with Detective Suarez. I was the chief of the sexual battery and child abuse unit for about 13 or 14 years. So I have a lot of experience working with the detectives from the Special Victims Bureau. And in that capacity, Ms. Rundle asked me to be here to explain to you some of the work that we do as prosecutors, that people don't always understand exactly what goes on behind the scenes. And it's partly the nature of our work. We are not at liberty to discuss open and pending investigations. We are not always at liberty to discuss certain aspects of cases until they're all done and over with. And even after a trial, when there might be appeals and things like that being litigated, sometimes it's hard for us to be able to get information out about the work that we do. But I'm very proud to have been with the office all of these years. To my right here are a couple of folks from our human trafficking unit. I am very familiar with human trafficking cases, but I kind of stayed more with handling cases involving children and adults that were sexually assaulted in the non-trafficking arena. Anyhow, I look forward to speaking with you all and hearing what your questions or concerns might be, and we're all here to hopefully try to allay any concerns you might have.
Like Laura, I like to stand and walk around, so I'm standing to address you all. It is my pleasure to be here with all of you. Alexandra Martinez with the State Attorney's Office. I am a criminal investigator with the State Attorney's Office. I am also the Deputy Commander of our Human Trafficking Task Force. Prior to coming to the State Attorney's Office, I started my career as an investigator with the Village of Pinecrest, and then I moved on to Coral Gables, and then here. My work with the State Attorney's Office is a very specific human trafficking. Those are the cases that we see day in and day out. I supervise a task force of 45 plus investigators, and with our federal and state partners, we have about 3/4 of the municipalities on our task force. We work directly with all members of our community. We do have a lot of resources available to you, and Tanya will go into the resources that we have available. And going forward, you must know that the commitment that the Key Biscayne Police Department has made by joining our task force and assigning investigators to the task force and working with us hand in hand with our federal, state, and municipal partners. They are just committed as we are to investigating and working together with our prosecutors with these horrific crimes. I am also a state crime prevention officer. My entire career as an investigator, I have a good range of different crimes that I have investigated, so I am here to answer any questions you have about personal safety, overall safety, or anything in between. I'll be happy to answer your questions. My cards are up here if you need one. Call me later if you don't want to address it here, but I also encourage you to ask the questions in this forum, because a lot of you all have the same questions, and it's best to address them in this forum. So it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. I'll stay seated. Thank you, everybody, for having me. Tanya Janusa, Special Victim Advocate with the State Attorney's Office Human Trafficking Unit. I've been with the Human Trafficking Unit for going on 7 years and with the office for 9 years. Prior, I worked in domestic crimes and sex battery crimes. I man a 24-hour human trafficking hotline, which I can provide you all with our QR code. And I also run the Human Trafficking Roll Call Initiative, educating police officers, patrol officers about human trafficking. I work with many community partners that help with services for human trafficking victims, and I'm happy to answer any questions regarding victim services. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Maria Guajardo. I work for Thriving Mind South Florida. I've been with the agency for the last 10 years. I oversee and manage the children's system of care. So any service that a child may need for mental health or substance use treatment, we can connect that child to the treatment, as well as adults. We do have an adult department. I brought flyers. We have a website. So any type of mental health, substance use treatment that your child or relative may need. We also oversee crisis services in the community. We have a mobile response team that comes out to provide de-escalation or linkage to service for anybody who's undergoing a mental health crisis. We also have residential services. We don't do the direct service. We are funded through the Department of Children and Families, and we have a network of about 40 plus providers that do that direct service. So we're all throughout Miami-Dade and Monroe. I have cards and flyers if anybody wants our information.
Okay, so with that, we're going to open up the field to questions. What I like to do this is one at a time. So if you want to come forward, raise hands. We'll answer questions here, and then we've got this great, talented group of people behind me to answer your questions. So it's open to you. You hear what they bring. And who's the first one who wants to come forward? Yes, ma'am. Why don't you come down? Yeah, please.
Good evening. Most of you or all of you may know that there's been a lot of rumors and how we got to this point. I have a question. I know some of the agencies that are presenting, and I understand that many of the services have to be wanted by the person or like a relative that suggests. So when do we go after like threats or red flags? Like how does that work? Because I know there's a lot of rumors and there's some accounts of what has happened, but there's a lot of, I don't know, rumors. So what is needed to take action or to provide services, or which agency comes first? I don't know.
So I'll answer that question. Anytime there's a concern from anybody in the community, we encourage you to contact us. We will respond to any concern that you have, whether it rises to the level of it being an actual crime or not. And we're going to take it serious. We're going to document your concern in a police report. If it rises to the level of criminal activity where we think that there may be something awry, we contact our partners. That's where they come in. But there has been a lot of calls lately on certain suspicious activity and things that have been in the chats. I need to reiterate that when we are in open spaces, it's not illegal to take photos. It may be unusual, and we may find it highly unusual, but we have contacted every person that has called the police in the last 2 weeks with these reports. We have been able to make contact with the individual. The individuals have allowed us to look at their phones. We've documented it on a police report. So we do take all allegations seriously. However, we do need to remember in the United States of America, there is this thing called the Bill of Rights, and everybody is afforded constitutional rights, regardless if they're suspected of committing a crime or not committing a crime. And we have to afford those opportunities to everyone. But to answer your question, we would be the original intake agency since Key Biscayne has jurisdiction here. If it was a crime, that's where we would contact Miami-Dade Police. Even if it didn't rise to the level of crime and there was something that we may be concerned with, we could contact the state attorney's office, we could contact Miami-Dade Police, and at that point, ask them a question to see if it's something more that we could do.
I understand. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
You would talk about crimes, of course, coming from police. It would be like the alarm that would sound for you. But in cases of like, we've heard a lot of people who know of the subjects that we're discussing about. There's like mental conditions that have been documented. So of course that would feel as a threat to us in the community. So I don't know how can that be addressed?
I'll address this because I've gotten probably 12 different phone calls about it since last week, and I know it's running rampant in the chats because I've had residents send me snapshots of it. Those individuals are residents here. They live here. Mm-hmm. They have a residence here. They've been longtime residents here. Because they may or may not fit the mold, that's not for the police to judge. Mm-hmm. We have gone to every single call that every resident has placed. We have contacted them. Just because someone may or may not suffer from mental illness, it's not illegal to be mentally ill. And I understand there is concern, but there has been nothing that has come to our attention in our contact with either one of those individuals that has risen to the level of criminal activity. However, if you are concerned, I encourage you to call us, and we will continue to go out, and we will continue to make contact with those individuals.
Someone else, thanks.
Thank you, thank you. And I think this all goes back to us as a community working as partners and being very vigilant. So, yes, sir. Yeah, please.
Good evening. Thank you for coming. Regarding the human trafficking, and you have 25 investigators, I'd like to understand how the pressure of the human trafficking is happening, especially for children. Is it children that are being brought here, or is there a possibility that the children would be taken, or, we don't understand, I think, is the issue. I think if you sort of lay out a little bit of a field work of what's going on, that we could understand, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Sure, absolutely. And I'd love to clarify what is human trafficking, because to this day, many still don't know the difference between human trafficking and, let's say, human smuggling. Human trafficking is sexual exploitation of a child for the purpose of commercial sex or labor. So that's what we really focus on, those cases where a child is being exploited for the purpose of profit for someone else. And I try to break it down as simple as possible. So when you talk about children in our communities being trafficked, that is a fact. Everyone thinks that this is only happening somewhere else. I can guarantee you that human trafficking is happening all around us. We just don't know how to recognize it. Human trafficking and those who profit from selling our children for commercial sex, they master the art of blending in. It's very difficult to identify a human trafficker, someone who is looking at a child for the purpose of exploiting them for profit. So I always recommend that you educate yourself on what is human trafficking and what human trafficking is not. When you think about a child prostitute, for example, there's no such thing as a child prostitute. Why is there no such thing as a child prostitute in this country? Anyone can tell me that. Ma'am.
I think there is not, because a child will not prostitute himself.
Right, a child can't give consent. You're right on track. A child cannot give consent. So a lot of misconception is that a child goes into that field, if you will, on their own. There's always someone behind a child who lures them in, and then it exploits them for the purpose of profit. A lot of the children in our community are being lured through the internet, social media, the apps that they're on, the video games that they're playing, even the video consoles in your home, the Xboxes and the PlayStations. It is very, very complex on the way that these traffickers find their ways to your children. Okay, now when we go home, we secure our homes, we set the alarm, we lock the doors, we lock our windows, no one gets in. But they're getting in through the computers and the social media and the devices. Okay, so our children are just as vulnerable as any child on this planet to be trafficked because of the way that they are being targeted. So they befriend them, and then there's many ways to manipulate a child to do what an adult trafficker has in mind for that child. So my advice always to parents is watch who they are communicating with online. If you're not watching who they're communicating with, those friendships, quote unquote, tend to go on a little bit longer, and that's the grooming process, and before you know it, they find themselves in a situation that the child themselves cannot explain. So I always encourage, manage your children's devices, including their game consoles. Human trafficking, by the brief definition that I gave you, is happening right here in our communities. It's our children. This is not happening to other communities, other states, other countries. This is happening right here in Miami-Dade County, to include our municipalities. Did I answer your question, sir?
Okay, next question. I think your hand was up before. Come on down. Yeah, please come on up here. We want to make sure we hear what you have to say.
Yeah, hi. I'm going to go back to the conversation of the lady before, that asked before. So we had a situation this weekend. My son and his friends, I found out actually very late at night from when I asked my son, because another mom told me, but they were in the park and they were approached by this couple, I think, that they were talking about. I didn't know who they were till that night. And they were 3 boys in the park, and they approached them and asked them, like, do you guys want some candy? They looked scary, so the boys got scared, and just looked at them, got up, ran away. They ran to the boy's house that was near the park, but the police was in the park, so I think the couple assumed they were going to the police. And the kids say that the couple threw away like a bunch of like candies or pills or something into the garbage. I found out this maybe happened during the day. I found out at night when the other mom told me. What do we do? Like, I spoke to my son, he knows not to take obviously none of them do because everybody said no and they just got up and ran away, but they got very scared. I found out late. I don't know if it's reported the next day, don't report it. I don't know I understand the story, mental illness, not, like, I can't put one and one together, but there is a little bit of a thread when the kids are being scared. So I think we just need a little bit to be more aware from your end and your team and know that something like this happened.
Look, I can assure you that my team is extremely aware of the situation. We've dealt with this couple multiple times last week. The only thing I can keep reiterating to this community is if an incident occurs, please call us so that we can document it. And then obviously if something rises to the level of a crime, we're going to address it and treat it such as that. I do agree with you. I think it's important as a community, as the manager said earlier tonight, that we all work together, and it's important that we tell our children what to do and not to do, especially when they encounter someone that they feel threatened or scared by. It's something that we want to know about. As many of you are aware, we do have officers inside of Village Green Park. We want you to come to the officer and talk to the officer so that we can document it. My staff and I have spoken about this incident and the incidents that we've had. All my supervisors are aware of it. Again, we have to work within the confines of the law.
Yeah, I think, ma'am, right there, I think you were next. Work with me, we'll get one at a time, but we'll get there.
I'll go really
Okay,
fast.
She's first.
So I understand that we have to stay within the realm of the law. I want to understand something. If there are complaints that were done 10 years ago, which is before your time, there were, like at least that I know, 3 complaints done 10 years ago about a case that's going on now that we cannot talk about. That was done 10 years ago. So what happened? There's someone that's still in the line of, he had complaints 10 years ago, he's still in the line, people are still talking to him about him, and I've been hearing stories for those 10 years. Of course, I'm not going to the police because I have nothing to complain, but there are rumors for 10 years. Nothing has been done for 10 years. Now there are new complaints because there's a new generation going on, there are new complaints, and still, it seems, I don't know, because we don't know the case, that nothing's going on. And the same thing with these people. What needs to happen for something to be done? Thank you.
So I'll dissect your question, and then if any of my partners here have anything to add, I'll do it. So for your first part of your question, you're correct. I wasn't here 12, 13 years ago. However, I'm here today, and I can talk about what we've done since I have been here. The only thing that I will address from 12, 13 years ago is there was 2 reports filed with our police department, and the victims did not want to pursue an investigation, which is their choice. And that's why we have Thriving Minds, we have the state attorney's office, and I can tell you that a lot of things have changed in law enforcement in 12 years on how victims can come forward and feel comfortable to come forward to be able to tell their stories. Those are those victims' choices. Whether or not they have a voice now to come forward, they still do and they can come forward. In terms of the investigation from September, when it was brought to our attention, it was taken with the seriousness that it needed to be taken with, and it was immediately handled. Detectives took statements immediately, contacted Miami-Dade Police immediately, worked with the state attorney's office, and we collaborated throughout that case until the decision was made. For the last part of your question, I understand the concerns of the community, and I can't sit here and give you a blanket answer on what will it take for something to happen. No one wants anything to happen, and we're all fully aware as a community of what's going on. However, they have not broken a law, and we can't take someone into custody for not breaking a law. I don't know if anyone here wants to add to that.
During my time as a chief of the Sexual Battery and Child Abuse Unit, one of my most difficult responsibilities was reviewing investigations that had been brought to the police attention where someone was alleged to have inappropriately touched a child. When that kind of allegation comes into play, I'll use the county as an example, but it could equally be the city of Miami jurisdiction, Key Biscayne Police Department, et cetera. The investigators are going to go through a series of steps, one of the most important of which is going to be a service that's offered through the state attorney's office, and that's going to be a forensic interview of the child victim. If any of you are familiar with the Christie House building, it's near Jackson Memorial Hospital. It's a wonderful, wonderful facility. I was very proud to call it my home away from home for a long time. And there, courtesy of Janet Reno, who was Ms. Rundle's predecessor, she put into place a forensic interviewing unit where children are interviewed not at a police station, but in a very child-friendly environment where there are closed-circuit TVs that record, and cameras that record what's happened, so that hopefully down the road we're able to play that child's interview perhaps for a jury, things of that nature, and minimize the number of times that kids have to disclose what happened to them. Because what we know from years and years of experience is that every time a child is asked to explain what happened to him or her, they don't understand that the police may have one question about what happened, prosecutors another, maybe victim advocates another question, a judge might have a question, a defense attorney might have a question, and literally in trainings that I've done on this, I could have almost every single one of you stand up and be a potential person that this child would have to repeat what happened to them. It's devastating, and it re-traumatizes the children. So the first step really toward making a criminal case is that forensic interview. When the police have gotten a forensic interview done of a child, they've maybe interviewed any other witnesses to see if they can corroborate what the child is saying. There are many times when, as law enforcement, as parents, as caregivers, we know our kids, and we know when our kids are telling us the truth. Here's the problem. If the case were to go forward to a criminal case, a jury's not going to know that child. The judge isn't going to know that child. What juries and judges know is the law, which is, number one, no matter how horrible or how heinous that crime is, everyone has a presumption of innocence. Number two, in order for the police to make an arrest, they only need to have probable cause that a crime occurred. And if you believe a child, when a child says, hey, this person touched me inappropriately, that in and of itself could be sufficient evidence for the police to arrest an offender. But here's what a lot of people don't necessarily know. In order for the prosecutors to file formal charges in a case, we have to swear an oath when we sign that document that we believe that we can prove those allegations beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt. And the reality in many cases, and I'm not in any way dissuading anybody from reporting, we desperately need everything to be reported, even if ultimately we can't make a criminal case out of it. But here's the reality. Jurors expect CSI Miami in front of them, right? They think there's going to be DNA. They think there's going to be fingerprints. They think there's going to be physical evidence. They expect confessions. They expect eyewitnesses. The reality of child sexual abuse cases is that the offenders are not committing these crimes in front of witnesses. They're telling the kids to keep quiet. Most of the time, the way that they are physically touching these children is not going to be in a way that's going to injure them or leave marks behind. And so, unfortunately, and gut-wrenchingly, there are many times when the only evidence that we have available is the word of the child. And that's where, as a prosecutor, there were many times when I either met with investigators who would bring to me, hey, Laura, here's the evidence that we have gathered in this case. And I may believe in my heart of hearts that something happened and I don't like it. But if I don't honestly believe that I can prove those allegations beyond a reasonable doubt, number one, ethically, I cannot file that case. Because as prosecutors, we take an oath not to just throw any case out there and see what happens, because we have the potential to take somebody's liberty away from them. And that is a very important point to take into account. But equally important to me is not bringing a child through the criminal justice process if there isn't at least a reasonable likelihood that the offender can be convicted. And so it becomes, unfortunately, the circumstance that there may be people out there that we believe could have committed a crime, but in the absence of having the evidence to prove it beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt, we have to, as law enforcement agencies, not go forward with that case. And so I have met many times with parents or people in the community who ask, and I understand it, what has to happen before we can get this person locked up? Does something worse even have to happen? I hope nothing like that does happen. I hope if, God forbid, this person did commit a crime like this, that maybe with the strength of additional witnesses coming forward, the law gives prosecutors a wonderful tool, which is that if someone has committed offenses over and over again, we can oftentimes combine all of those victims together to give more of a powerful voice than just one victim standing alone. But there are times, unfortunately, where there are going to be horrible offenders who swim through the net of law enforcement, and we just have to hope that we can catch them. But the reality is that we can't always do that. So I hope that answers a little bit about what the process is. We have to look at what evidence corroborates what this child says. And sometimes there just isn't enough there to make a criminal case.
Thank you very much. I have 3 questions.
Oh, yeah.
So I think for everybody, the village has to do a better job of background control on all the vendors in the case. Yeah, now just to finish that question.
Okay, thank you so much for
May I
going through
just
that.
add one more thing? What Laura just explained was the process of the prosecution. Before we get there, it's very difficult for that child, and particularly that family, to go forward for whatever reason. And that's what the chief was saying, is that at the time that crime happened 10 years ago, if the child and the family, they decided back then that they weren't going to move forward for whatever reason, that's what the explanation is why that happened 10 years ago. Now we have something, moving forward today. So everything that Laura explained, that's the process of our system. But before we get there, we need that child and that family to file, the complaint and go through the whole process. Then we can make an arrest, and then it'll get to the prosecution's office. But for whatever reason, the family and the child back then, we have to respect their decision not to go forward at that time.
Okay, hi. My name is Vivian Arias. I'm a long-term resident of Key Biscayne. I'm also a social worker. I trained with the Department of Family and Children. I've been at Christie's house. I have 3 questions, okay? My daughter, I'm here as a mom. My daughter and her friends have been photographed by different men in our parks, okay? This has happened not only to my daughter and her friends. This has happened, we started talking about it as a community. So it turns out that it's happening in different places on Key Biscayne. This is not a rumor. This is the parent seeing what's happening, okay? Sunday, another guy, different men, not the same guy, okay? So who would investigate that?
We would take that investigation.
Well, then, okay, so you would take that investigation. I've called and I've reported twice. I haven't heard back. I mean, I have, okay, hold on. So you would take that investigation. Okay, 10 years ago, an FBI agent came in and spoke to us about pedophile rings that were active 10 years ago on the island before this, okay? Now I need to know why our kids are being taken pictures of. Where are those pictures going? What are they doing with them? And when is this going to stop? And before you answer, Chief Silva, because I think, we've had a conversation, we've spoken. I really appreciate the fact that you guys went into the details about how hard it is to convict child predators, okay? I don't want to wait until something happens or a child gets trafficked. I want answers. We need to understand what's going on. Who's on our island? Why are they here? Why are they here so consistently? I mean, they're here. They're every now and then we're there's kids being targeted. So I guess the other question for the panel is, okay, so you investigate You investigate the people that are taking pictures of our children on the island, right? Okay. Good. Then the next question is, how can we as a community, grooming is not illegal, grooming a child, bringing a dog, getting close to the girls, taking pictures, grooming behavior, which is highly dangerous and indicative of, pedophilic behavior, right? Or whatever, sexually attracted to minors or whatever. What can we do about grooming? How can we protect our children from grooming? People who work in the community, who live in the community, and are grooming our children now. That's my second question. Maybe you can help me, give me some ideas. And then the other one is, if you all know of any programs in other parts of Miami-Dade or the country that would serve us as a community to just send a message out there to these rings or these individuals, highly sophisticated individuals who are targeting our children with their phones for some reason that nobody knows. What can we do as a community? We're smart people, to send a message not to come on this island to target our children. And by the way, this island has the peculiarity that I think a lot of people know about, is that there's a false sense of security. There's always been a false sense of security. It's like Disney World for a pedophile, okay? I used this language with one of the officers, and he asked me not to use that language. I don't understand why. We need to talk, we need to use the correct language, So, if you... So,
you're okay. If I may, I'm talking to you now as a crime prevention officer. What you're talking about is how can we prevent a potential crime, right? Yes. So that's when I encourage all of you to work directly with your police department to get training for parents and for children on how to address those particular situations where you have those coming onto your island, right, coming into your community to do these specific behaviors that no one up here approves of. Your alarm systems are going off, and you're right, something is not right. So I encourage you, Pinecrest, 16, 17 years ago, this was the same town hall meeting we had, same conversations, what can we do? And as a crime prevention officer, and I'm here for your service and for the service of the chief and this community, I set up the Neighborhood Crime Watch program. The city, our goal was to make the entire village a crime watch area. Let me tell you, whatever concerns you have, working together hand in hand with your police department, and as soon as anybody comes onto the island, there's a big sign that says this village is a crime watch area, which means all of us are gonna have our eyes on you, and we know how to identify a potential crime or specific behavior, suspicious persons, and we know what to do with that. We know how to report it to our police department, and the police department will address it. The way to address those concerns you have, which are, as a parent, very legitimate concerns, is to work together, unified. You can name it whatever you want. We named it the Crime Watch program because that's a universal term for everybody working together as one. We come out and we teach you how to recognize specific crimes, specific behaviors, and how to report it. And then what you all can do as a community to prevent these and to lower the occurrence of these situations. What you're having right now is you're probably at a peak. No one has really noticed it before. It may have been going on for a while. Now everybody's aware. Now we have people in our community that we don't like the type of behavior that's happening, how they're targeting our children. That's when you come and you work hand in hand with your police department, because they're the ones who are going to be here day in, they're the ones who are going to be responding, and you come together and come up with a whatever program you want, you all work together. And like I said, I'm here for your service. I'll be happy to assist any way I can on how to create a program like that, and that will be sustainable. Okay.
Thank you.
I just want to add one tidbit here. It is extremely important, if you see this behavior, that you report it immediately. The time delay hurts us, obviously. When the reports have been made immediately, especially in the last 2 weeks, we've been able to contact every individual. And to answer your question, we do speak with them. Every person has allowed us to look at their phone, with the exception, no one has said no to us. Ma'am, we've made contact with everyone, with the exception of one case that was 24 hours later, and he was the only person that had a video in his phone. And he gave us an explanation for it. It didn't violate the law. He gave us full access to his phone. He didn't.
Grooming is not illegal. Grooming is legal. You're representing the law. I'm talking about potentially, grooming behavior, the one before they catch the crime happens, the abuse or the trafficking happens. There's like a gray area there that we need to deal with as a community. It's not you, it's us as a community.
No, and I get where you're coming from, man. And I think one of the things, at least I heard some of the things that they just brought up, is I think what we do coming out of this is we begin to put some guidelines and initiatives that we can do as a community. I like the Crime Watch. Maybe we can put a special twist to Key Biscayne, but maybe we come together and maybe we can put a task force together across the village to come up with some of these ideas. But then we got to follow through, right? We can't not do it. We got to follow through and do it. So, in fact, I'll be here afterwards. Anyone who's interested in doing something like that, please come by and talk to me, and I think we can get some really good ideas out. So, yes, ma'am.
So I want to go back to the residents that we know live here and that are making a lot of us very uncomfortable. So the first thing I want to say is that you tell us to report it. We have many instances. Right now as we speak, the gentleman was smoking weed walking down Crandon Boulevard in front of all the soccer kids that were playing in the field, and then he was just held in front of Montessori filming girls, and the police was holding him 20 minutes ago. So that's happening right now. Yesterday, I was at Winn-Dixie with my son, and I encountered him on the aisle, with Band-Aids, stealing Band-Aids. That's stealing, because he was bleeding and putting Band-Aids on his skin, okay? For me, I know that maybe the law protects him because of the Bill of Rights that you were mentioning, but the Bill of Rights is not protecting me or my son from being a target from this gentleman that I have no idea what his intentions are. Also, he has stated in public that if someone comes in encounter or does something to the woman that accompanies her, she has a gun and he has bullets. He has said that publicly. For me, that is a concern. The people that live in that street can no longer have a regular and normal life. They can walk their dog at 9 p.m. because they're scared. The kids that ride their bikes to school, they cannot do that any longer because they're scared. They don't know. The neighbors that live in that community are scared. We are all scared. I don't feel comfortable having my child walking to St. Agnes by himself or with his nanny because I'm constantly worried that maybe this guy is right next to it and I don't know what he's going to do. So I understand the law. I understand that it might protect him. I understand that maybe we need for something really bad to happen in order to do something, just like unfortunately it happened 2 weeks ago with the situation with the accident on the bike. We spoke many times about how important it was to ban the bikes and the scooters, and it took a really horrible tragedy to come together in 1 hour, make a decision, and protect everyone else. So I want to raise my voice today saying that we have a situation. We have a problem. Maybe they don't fit the mold. I don't care if they fit the mold or not. Maybe they look different. I don't care about that. I care that they're taking pictures of kids. I care that they're offering candies to kids. I care that they're smoking weed around the park where there's a lot of kids, and they're making it all of us uncomfortable, and that's not right. And so the law should also protect me and everybody here against that. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi. I'm a member of the board of one of the buildings on, now, get nervous, I'm not used to this, Galen Drive. We have called the police, not I, but neighbors have called the police 15 or 20 times in this last month. They arrive 5 and 6 police cars, and nothing gets done. We don't even have the reports of all the times the police has come. And the reason that they give us when we're stonewalled is that it's sensitive information. We are giving them the information of a couple who is scandalous, screaming and yelling, ripping the doors of their apartment apart. The woman is now in the hospital with a beating, and the police have done nothing. We can't even get a report. What's going on?
You can get a report, ma'am. You're not going to be able to get a report the night that the report is made.
I can't hear you.
The night that the reports are generated, when an officer responds to any call within the village, the report is not generated that night. There is a review process that has to go through
So
a
you're
supervisor.
not giving us a report?
Ma'am, if I can finish to tell you how to obtain a report.
We have a chat with videos of neighbors telling us that these people are taking photographs of the children in the parks, that they're luring them, giving them things.
You can obtain a police
We
report.
need help.
I'm trying to explain to you how you can get your police report. You can come to the police department, give us the address, and we will give you a copy of that police report within 24 to 48 hours.
Thank you so much.
Okay? And if you like, I'll give you my card, and you can contact me tomorrow morning, and I'll help facilitate getting a copy of those reports for you.
Okay. My name's Elizabeth Palacio, so you know who you're going to be talking to.
Pleasure to meet you. I'll give you my card at the end of this, ma'am.
First, sorry for my English. Spanish is my first language. I am so scared to death. But I am in front of you because I am a resident of 251 Gallant. And I've been calling the police. And I've been asking for help because I am the neighbor of the 316 apartment. I've been living there for 14 years. And I am scared to death to come to my own apartment where I work so hard to pay the taxes, the money that pay your jobs to take care of us. I don't feel safe at all. I don't. At night, early in the morning, anytime. And you could see many cases of my neighbors that I asked them to come. I don't know if they are here. We are so intimidated. I walking like this. I asked a neighbor to come with me because I couldn't leave my apartment. I feel like in a prison in my own apartment. What is happening? The neighbor in the elevator was like closed, and this couple, that was like 3-4 days ago, they start pushing all the buttons, ask, do you have money? Do you have money? Do you have money? They were in panic. And I know, or somebody told me that they reported to the police. And then what? And then what? They are free by the building. They are free by the corridors. I am the next neighbor door. And I'm so afraid to walk in my own house. I hear all kind of noises. Last night, this guy was running, I am so sorry, like this behind other neighbors in the lobby. He was sitting this morning at 6 in the morning at the door of the lobby. We couldn't walk. The guy that was trying to walk the door, this guy was so intimidated. I have a dog. My daughter was sent to Colombia Saturday early morning. My mom is 94 years old, and I have to ask my family to take care of her. So I am by myself. I have come to the police. I've been working, and I have to ask my boss to give me permission to come to the police. And nothing happens. The guy is there at home doing all kind of crazy things. So what else do you need to do in order to feel us protected? Even the building says we can do anything. We are trying to hire a lawyer, but there are not enough evidence. There are not? They are not? Do you want to live in that situation in your own home with your own family? This is erratic, bizarre, and schizophrenic behavior every single day. So what can we do as residents? We need results right now. It's not tomorrow. It's not in a month. It's not in a year. I am so afraid to leave my apartment to go to work. I am so afraid to come back to Key Biscayne. I am so afraid to go to Winn-Dixie, to the supermarket, to the CVS, to the park, to the beach. So this is not safe anymore. Something has to be done. It's not only reports and reports and reports. For what? For what?
Good evening. My name is Patrick Melman. First of all, Chief, and I think this is a problem not only here in Key Biscayne. The police does not scare criminals anymore. That's the first basic problem, and I think we have to make that change. You won't change it everywhere. You won't change the Western civilization. I would very much like to, but I think they have to be afraid of police. They have to be afraid of people going after them. And if they don't, something else is going to happen. We are extremely afraid. I don't get my children on social media since they were born, not ever. Yesterday, a friend, we've been friends over 30 years. One of of her sons, I don't know if it's the one with 9 or the one with 12, he was walking through the street behind Crandon, the community church street. Yeah. And then simply a car stopped with 2 men and asked him to get into the car. And then it said no. He even said where he was going because he's a kid. And then they didn't. He kept insisting and insisting. And I'm absolutely abhorred. I've never expected this to happen in Key Biscayne. This got, gentlemen, I don't know if you realize it, this got out of control. To get back into control, we don't need totalitarian control of the population, but we need to get these people to understand there's going to be something that's going to happen to them if they stay around. Because that's how it happens in this country, okay? So just let's be very clear. This cannot be anymore, period. We may have to discuss the method, but unacceptable. Unacceptable.
Good evening. My name is Andy Herrera. We all know where it's going, and then it's going to be non-stop, non-comments the whole night. I guess what we have to do is first to target what is happening. And what is happening is that we, as a parents, as a community, we need to be informed. If we have an investigation, it's an active investigation, we know that you guys cannot comment. You guys are tied. The law protects you, protects individuals, you know. But once these activities happens and the case is closed, as a community, we would like to be informed. That way, as a parent, as a neighbor, we are informed that we have issues. We can decide if we would like to have our children close to certain individuals that they were not found guilty of committing a crime, but at least we know there are certain signs that as a parents we can avoid or decide not to have our children close to those individuals. So that's something, that's an approach that we need to be informed. If we are a community that we are really concerned, you guys provide us plenty feedback. We know how to make our own decisions, the appropriate and correct decisions, and then the law that person can avoid the punishment of the law. But we as individuals, we have the right to know and to be informed. That's one of the things that we need to be aware constantly, by the government, by the police department, and those will be public records. There's nothing wrong with that. Once the investigation is complete, at least we know that we're facing a danger or not. But this is our decision. And from the intimate addressing the incident with this individual last night, I was the witness. I was the gentleman that contacted the Winn-Dixie administration, asked them to take care of the situation, having someone taking Band-Aids from the idol, and then, fixing the building close to where we have our food, things like that. This is a public health issue. That was a crime. Do we arrest this individual for committing this crime? I cannot present the charges, but the administration of Winn-Dixie was able to present charges to the police department. And you guys were able to apprehend the individual and take him to the custody and then go to a trial. And then the prosecutor, the witness, and the judge will decide what to do. It was a crime, was committed. So anything we did, I don't know. That will be up to you to explain to us. Thank you.
So to address your point on a crime, if it's a misdemeanor not committed in the presence of an officer, we just can't make an arrest. Whether or not Winn-Dixie called or not, I'm unaware if they called yesterday or not. I'll look into it when I get back. I do want to reiterate some of the security initiatives that we have in the village, because I think it's important for our community to understand what has occurred in the last 2 years, specifically at Village Green Park. There is not an ounce of that park that is not under security surveillance. One of the calls that you made, Vivian, we were able to go back at the security footage. That's how we were able to utilize and gather information to determine who the individual was. We also have license plate readers coming in and out of the island and strategically placed throughout the island, which we've been able to utilize in a multitude of investigations to be able to identify individuals. And this is something that has been made very public, and we're expanding our initiative with more additional cameras and additional license plate readers. I understand your concern.
So it seems that a lot of the purpose of this meeting tonight was about a couple of different episodes, but one couple in particular that's getting a lot of attention. And I wanted to know if one of those individuals has open warrants in other states, if you're aware of that, and if anything can be done to address that.
So we've made contact with that individual. We've conducted criminal history checks. If someone has an active warrant and the other state is not willing to extradite, we can't arrest.
I understand that, but if there is an active warrant, and what would the reason be that it cannot be extradited?
It would indicate on, when we run them through the database through NCIC and FCIC, they advise us whether or not the state is willing to extradite or not.
But so can you confirm if there is an active open warrant?
I would have to go back and look. I haven't specifically run him.
Because I have information to indicate that there is. And if there is an open warrant, and it is a question of cost, is there anything that this community can do to address that?
It's not a question of cost, sir, and I understand the concern that the community has, and we take it very seriously. And I am going to follow up to see if there is an active warrant. I'd be very surprised, because we have contacted that individual several times. Whether or not
Are you saying you'd be surprised that there's an active warrant?
I would be surprised if he had an active warrant, because we have made contact with him several times. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at it when we're done this meeting. My staff and I have had several conversations regarding this couple. I understand the concerns of this community.
And have we done a look at past, obviously, since you've addressed this individual before, he's been arrested many times.
Yes, sir.
So is there any way that the community can know what he was arrested for?
Sir, the community can conduct a public record search on their own.
Right,
and
but
see
this
what
is
comes
about
up.
us working together. We're trying to protect the community, and I'm hearing from the experts that the way to solve problems is that the police and the community to work together. So if the police has information about individuals' past that we feel would affect our children, then we shouldn't have to go do that type of research if it's really easy for the police to do it.
If there was any danger posed to any child in this community, we would immediately notify the community.
But I'm saying that I have reason to believe that there has been danger to children from the individual in the past.
I understand, and as I stated, as soon as the meeting's over, I'm going to go ahead and look at that, and if there is something there, I will advise.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to compliment. Okay.
Sir, to your point about extraditions, for many years I've attended bond hearings where the police have arrested somebody that may have an open pending warrant, maybe from another jurisdiction. I can't speak to the individuals that you're specifically talking about, but I think a lot of people don't understand how the extradition process works. I'm not talking about extraditing from a foreign country or something like that, but from one jurisdiction within the state to another or one state to another.
What I was just trying to address, though, is, because I don't know much about this, I'm not a lawyer like yourself, is if there was a question of states don't extradite certain levels of criminals because the budget doesn't allow for that, then if that's something we could solve, then I don't know if that's possible.
Not a budget issue. What I can tell you, though, from personal experience, is that there are some crimes that are so inherently dangerous that when I authorize an arrest warrant, let's say for that crime, if it was a crime of sexual battery or a crime against a child, something of that nature, I have we have a check mark that goes into the NCIC system, which is the nationwide, law enforcement system that any officer or prosecutor can look at to see if somebody has a pending warrant. If I authorize an arrest warrant, let's say for a sexual battery, I'm going to say that I want full felony extradition, meaning I don't care where that person is, bring them to my jurisdiction because I want to prosecute them. The reality is, though, that there are other crimes that there may be a warrant for. Maybe somebody, passed bad checks. Maybe there was something that was more of a fraud type of a crime. As a practical matter, we're not necessarily going to do full felony extradition to bring that person from wherever they may be, to bring them back into our jurisdiction where they may not really wind up facing that much of a criminal sanction. So there are times where, just by virtue of the type of crime that is alleged to have occurred, there may not be the same level of extradition that we're seeking. Obviously for a murder, I don't care where they are, bring them here. But for some of the less serious crimes, we may make a determination that this does not warrant, flying somebody across the country to be brought here. The other time that I can tell you that I review cases for potential extradition is this. There may be somebody that has fled our jurisdiction that my office has said we want to prosecute that individual. Time may go by, okay? Days, weeks, months, years. I'll tell you, there was a DUI manslaughter charge that my office authorized an arrest warrant for back in 2006. That individual has been on the lam. We hear from time to time from Homeland Security, from Border Patrol. We think that this person is somewhere in Europe, but it's been a long time. When we get word that, hey, we may have this person, I will then be asked to review the case that I didn't originally file. Is this still a viable case? Are the witnesses still available to prosecute the case? Do we still have the evidence available? And if we don't have the evidence available to us any longer, there may be times when my office says, no, don't bring them back here, because if they're brought here, number one, they're in our backyard where I don't necessarily want them. And number two, because we may not have the evidence any longer to go forward. And I'm not saying anything about the particular individuals that you're talking about, but just in terms of trying to have a dialogue about some of the issues that maybe you all wouldn't know about, because why would you know about these aspects of extraditions? But these are the things that my office and that law enforcement have to deal with all the time. And so I hope that answers, at least kind of in a more broad brushstroke way, what the challenges are, even if there is a warrant from another jurisdiction, why it may be that we can't send them back, because wherever that warrant might be in place, that agency might say, we don't want this person back, don't extradite them. And if that's the case, then even if the police pick them up, they go before the bond hearing judge. The bond hearing judge then says, okay, Miami-Dade Police Department Warrants Bureau, get in contact with your counterparts in whatever jurisdiction it is, and if that other jurisdiction doesn't come and get this prisoner, then we're gonna be releasing them. So anyway, I hope that answers a little bit about that process.
So, Chief, I would just-
Before you go right now, I just want to make sure, is there anyone out there who has questions, who hasn't had an opportunity? I see you, Louisa. But I know you guys in line definitely have one. But anyone out there who we're missing at all? Do you want to come up and get in line? I just want to make sure we get all these questions and we get, different people, but obviously go ahead, sir, but I just want to make sure they come forward.
Just an update. I was talking to the mother right now of the child. So one of the children was harassed, whatever you want to call. He's 12 years old. She is the calmest person on earth, and she hasn't filed a complaint yet. She's going to do it tomorrow morning because I told her to, and I said, and she told me it was the guys were, he's never seen the guys before. They were inside a blue car, and they asked me asked him to get inside the car. I do not know, but I feel that might be the first case, or one of the first cases of this type here. So it's getting worse. The child, she was very specific, saying we had a long talk. He knows how things work. He knows he shouldn't talk to strangers. He knows he shouldn't blah, 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 blah. And still, they almost got him inside a car. They are going to get kids on scooters or bikes or whatever. He's 12. Okay.
And sir, thank you for sharing that information. But again, I want to reiterate to everyone in public, you told me this happened last night?
I don't know if it was in the morning. I think it was in the afternoon.
Yesterday? And no one has called the police?
Oh, she told me, I don't know what to do. Call the police.
I
Go to the
understand,
police
but
now.
I just want to reiterate, I understand there may be language differences, there may be cultural differences. It is extremely important, anything of that nature that happens, we need to be contacted immediately. We have several tools at our disposal that can assist us in identifying potential suspects. It's important that we know about this 24 hours to 48 hours later. A lot of time has transpired. We still have investigative means that we can identify things, but it's extremely important that everyone in the community please comes forward and notifies us when these things happen immediately. I've communicated this several times in the last 4 to 5 weeks, and we'll do it again.
But we take it fair, yes. We'll do everything we can to get the word out. And yeah.
I'm in the community, I'm in the trenches. So there's 300, 400, 500, 5,000 mothers. And nobody, 2 weekends ago at Starbucks, there was this guy grooming a 12-year-old. Hey, I'm going to buy a drink for you, whatever. I had to call the police. I was at home, nobody wanted to call the police.
And we responded to that call, and none of the parents wanted to cooperate.
There was a Starbucks manager who saw the guy, there was a security guy at the mall who saw the guy, there were children who saw the guy.
And we interviewed every single one of them.
I just want you to listen and see that we have gaps in the process, okay? If we're gonna do this as a community, if we're gonna face it as a community, one of the gaps is that the community does not know how they need to respond when a guy comes up to their kid and takes a picture or tries to take them.
Can I jump in, because I know this gentleman's next, but I would ask you all, instead of putting it on Nextdoor, and instead of putting on WhatsApp, call our police officers at the moment that you see it. Please. All right, we got a line here. We got a line here. Hold on, Loudy. You're up next. So you're up next.
Right, okay. I know the police have to work within the confines of the law, so I understand you've made your point of like what you're able to do, and I think the community needs to continue to report, and I guess that's why we're here, to learn what we can do. I loved your suggestion of the Crime Watch or whatever it's called, like to train us better on how to tackle information and address and report. I go back to agencies because I understand your point of working within the confines of the law, but if all these reports and rumors and evidence of mental health problems are real, I hate to bring this example, but I'm sure it's in the mind of many. Whenever there has been a shooting, the news afterwards is always all the red flags that were there. So we want to know what to do with the red flags, because you cannot do much unless there's a crime, but maybe the National Alliance of Mental Illness and all this.
I can address some of that.
Yes.
After the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas incident, Miami-Dade Police Department created a department which is now a bureau, and it's the Threat Management Unit. So the Threat Management Unit will come and investigate threats to the community. It can, anybody can call. You can.
Ma'am, we have been in contact with the Threat Management Unit. Our department has already contacted them. They're doing the investigation, ma'am.
But is it because of a gun or because of mental health or because of both? Because I know there's different agencies for different things.
Okay. We have gone to the residence several times. We have been inside the residence. We've searched parts of the residence where we've been allowed to. We have not located a weapon. It doesn't mean that they don't have a weapon, but we have done the investigative questioning with them. As far as mental illness, we have spoken to them. We have taken actions that's been documented on a police report. Just because someone fits under the criteria of a Baker Act and we Baker Act them, the medical facility, once they arrive there, may keep them or may not keep them. But the Baker Act option has been completed. We are working with everything that we have at our disposal.
I know the police has. That's why I keep going to the agencies, because I know your limitations. I kind of understand from what you're saying. So when does the mental health institutions or groups or agencies do something, or when can you?
We can't just intervene. It's when the person requests a service.
So it has to be voluntary, like somebody with a
Correct.
mental health has
Correct.
to want help, even though they're a danger
Or
to
a
their
family
neighbors or
member.
their
And
partner?
that's when the Baker Act happens, like he's explaining. So you have the Baker Act. Once they're stable enough to come back into the community, they come back into the community.
And if they're a danger to themselves, nothing can be done?
Yes, when they're a danger to themselves, that's when the Baker Act occurs.
And if I could just take a moment and follow up your request, sir, the gentleman who came up about the warrant, I just had my dispatch center do a criminal history check. There's no active warrants on that individual.
Good evening, and thank you all for being here. My name is Maura Somers-Doogie. I'm an attorney. I do work in the field of public policy and advocacy to prevent child abuse and neglect. So I'm delighted to see you all here. And after years of being an attorney representing children in court in abuse and neglect cases, I became an advocate for prevention, because like all of you, I don't want a child to be hurt. And I know that there is a science to prevention. And so what I would like to say is Key Biscayne is already ahead of the game, because you have a community that is here and that cares and is willing to do something. So I would like to just have the opportunity, I have spoken to the mayor, to share some resources nationally, because the work I do is national in scope. And there are programs that a whole community can be involved in that could take the energy in this room and the concern in this room, take parents, teachers, schools, religious institutions, law enforcement, state agencies, Department of Children and Families, and work with them to educate a community so everyone knows what to do. Who do you call? You know, how do we do this with children? And we cannot expect our children to do this on their own, and we cannot expect the parents of individual children to do this on their own. This has to be a community. And when your community is known as one that has come together to say, enough abuse, stop, our children are our most precious commodity, our most precious resource, then people will not come to your community when it is known that you have taken those steps. So I just would like to offer some resources and programs that are evidence-based, that have been done nationally and replicated, and perhaps have a conversation about that. Also, somebody mentioned something else that's incredibly important, and it's a question of who is on this island doing things and in contact with our children. People who would be prone to this and are looking for it are looking to work with children, whether it's in schools or daycare or after-school activities or gymnastics or whatever else it is, coaches. And there are procedures and protocols that you can have that anyone who works with children will have to go through. I don't know what we do in Key Biscayne, but those are things that can be done and can be required. There are states that require anyone who contracts with their Department of Children and Families have to follow certain safe standards for child-serving organizations. So I just want to tell you that there really are a lot of resources out there. Key Biscayne has to decide what they want and what will be effective. And there are some other people on this island who also are involved in the work of preventing child abuse and neglect. And we would all be happy to share any information with you and you know, work to make sure that each one of these precious children is kept safe.
And Maura, we'll definitely take you up on that offer. I'll be over here after the meeting. Please come by.
Hi, I'm also part of the building where the two individuals that everyone has been talking about, and I don't want to keep beating the bush. I know there's been a lot of examples of the behavior and the stress that we're living under, but I guess I have some questions for you guys about what we were just spoken about. I have lived there for 7 years, coming back and forth, and I've seen these individuals who have lived there before they came to the attention of this community, and this wasn't always the case. And while living there, they didn't fit the mold of like what we expect in our community in Key Biscayne. They always kept to themselves, and they didn't bother anyone, with occasional, sometimes some moments, but it's changed. It's changed. And we kind of just want to, like, from people who are witnesses from there, be like, something is different. I don't know, I don't want to air out their dirty laundry, and I'm happy to like have a communication, like the neighbors who are here with you guys separately, but it's not the same. Either there's been a decline in mental health or some other things, and some people here in communication with the person, one of the person's mother, and she's not able to intervene or do anything because she's not here. So we want to ask those who are, if you guys are in communication with the mother, if there's any way that she has resources to reach out, if the Baker Act has been thought about for both of them, because I'm also concerned not just for our safety, but they're also our neighbors, and I understand they're human beings. So even though we're all scared of what they're doing, I'm also scared for them as people, because this isn't normal. They haven't been like this, and I don't know if it's a toxic relationship or something's going on with their life, and they need intervention because it hasn't been like this always, and we want them to be all right as well, because and then we can all be in peace. So kind of some questions. We can talk to you guys separately as well, but we want to know about that. And then second point that I want to ask is, I know you guys are aware of the conditions that they live in, and I don't want to talk about a lot of more of that, but is there also any type of like citations or for safety of the building as well? Because if there's a fire or something happens, there's possibilities that the rest of the neighbors could also be affected because of violations for safe hazards.
So to address your first point, I'd be absolutely happy to talk to you on sidebar, see if there's something we can collectively do as a group. Second part, we have been in contact with the family, and we have spoken to family members. Family members have also been in contact with us. Okay. So we have explored that option also. In terms of criminal misgivings in the building, I haven't personally been to the apartment myself. I've read the reports, every one of them that we've gone to. which do describe the nature of the unit. It's something that I'll discuss with code tomorrow to see if there's something we can do from a code perspective. And we can absolutely look at that avenue. If you want to wait after the meeting, I'll get with you, I'll give you my number, and we can absolutely set up a time to talk, or we can have a discussion hereafter.
And just add one of the other things, because we all know that she's in the hospital right now. I don't know if that's something that you guys are also looking into, the incident of the reason she's there, or how it happened, if there's any reasoning that could be part of like the action that you guys are taking.
So I don't even know why she's in the hospital, but even if we did, it's HIPAA, so we can't discuss her medical condition. But like I said, I'd absolutely love to have a conversation with you on the side, see if there's something that we can do collaboratively to work together to try to figure out how we can make a difficult situation less difficult for you and your neighbors.
Okay, thank you. I think we will all reconvene for those of us who are here. I'll be waiting in the
Okay,
back.
no worries. Thank you.
Good evening. I have two asks, one for the agencies and one for the community, the village. And I'm going back to the sex abuse case by an employee of the village that happened during 10 years. I don't know how long, and I don't have all the details, but I'm very concerned about the sex abuse with our children. So for the agencies, the one thing that I would like to ask is if you can provide us with all the best practices, preventive best practices that are in the country that we can apply here. 15 years ago, we had a very, very good conference from the FBI in San Agnes. They were explaining us all the things that we can do for our children at home, all the monitoring of the internet, all the things that we can do, and it was fantastic. And something like that, I think we have to repeat over and over again. I regret not having the FBI today, but I think that's something we should definitely do every year, every 6 months, and continue training parents and showing teachers and authorities about things that we can do to prevent this to happen. And if I remember correctly, that conference from the FBI was fantastic because it was giving us a lot of tips how to prevent this from happening, and they were explaining things and cases that happen and how they can or they could have avoided. Right? So for the agencies, my ask is if you can help us with that, that would be fantastic. I think we should implement all the best practices that are around in the country. And for our village, my ask is about proactive prevention. It's not about filing reports and doing things after filing the report. It's what can we do to be proactive and prevent things from happening. And I have a couple of examples that I can give you for this person that we are discussing about the sex abuse case in the community here in the community center. If you didn't have all the facts, all the tools to put this person in prison, then why didn't we work together with the management and put this person to do desk duties? Put a supervisor to go all the training sessions that this person was conducting. We can do better, much better, and we can really prevent things from happening. It's a question of working together and taking measures that are not going against any right of any person, but if you have suspicions, and we have a communications person now that is monitoring the chats, all the rumors, all the information that goes in the chats, we can monitor. And then if there are suspicions about the person, let's put this person in desk duties, or let's put a supervisor to attend every session that this person is having. And also let's do background checks. Let's do fingerprints. Let's do all the top requirements that many of, like in San Agnes, are happening and are being used. So let's work together and let's be proactive in preventing all these things to happen. I will finish with saying that this is an horror for me. This is something awful. After I watched the movie Spotlight, I realized that 90% of the cases are not reported. Nothing happens. Things are repeated and repeated and nobody does anything. And people are scared of reporting these things. So we have to be a lot more proactive than reactive. And I think that's a responsibility of our authorities. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And I will tell you something. You know, I've worked in a number of municipalities. It's a hard word to say. And I will tell you, this police department is the most responsive you've ever had in any place you live. Reach out to them. Tell them what's going on. Respond in the moment. I wish we could scour the chats, but that's not where we need to be. They need to be responding to us. We don't have the manpower to go through that. Again, please reach out to our police department call them in the moment that it happens. So that's your help to us. And then obviously our responsibility is back to you is to get out there and do a full investigation.
And Mr. Manager, just if I could reiterate, you may or may not be aware of our Village Resource Officer program that we have here. We have been in discussions with hosting bi-monthly community workshops on different topics. We've already had several meetings. We're obviously going to reach out to our partners and invite them in, and so that they can do presentations. And we need our community to be involved. And I'm glad to hear you say how informative it was, because it's important that people come to it, not only in times where there is cases, but in times where we don't have those cases. You know, because I think those are the times where we have the opportunities to learn the most and have an impact. So we are in the process of planning those and inviting different partners for different topics.
I'm not going back to anything. I'm just going to make a comment. Yes, I've been living here 30 years or something like that. It is a safe place. We cannot think it's all bad. It's not. Police does a great job. We, a community, do a great job. I think what it lacks in the moment right now is a bit more of communication. I know that we do those workshops. I've been to workshops before when my kids were small. We did workshops on sex abuse. We did a workshop on alcohol. Then I think we just all relax. I think the police can do more. Yes, maybe do more workshops, but the village maybe needs to communicate more, because I see now there's one parent. My kids are older. My kids are not going to go into a car because they are in their 20s already. So where are the parents of the small kids? They're not in this room. So I know. No, but that's what I meant. That's what I meant. So maybe go to the schools. I don't know. We have to, the village may be, I don't know how. I don't know because I'm not in that business. I have no idea. I think it needs more communication. Not the noises on the chat. It needs more communication. And I would say, police, zero tolerance. You are going with your little razor. You're not supposed to be there. The police cannot. I think it was someone said before, I think we all just relax and it's a nice neighborhood, so the police needs to be the bad cop. That's the reality right now. So if the kid is not behaving, the parent because at the end of the day, the parent is the responsible one. So you cannot feel bad because the kid, he's going to go in his record and he won't be able to get not a scholarship or a driver's license. You know, I think the part of the problem are the parents. Parents are not parenting. They are leaving for the teachers and they leave for the police. And the police, it's a good police force. It's an awesome police force. I don't say. That's why I want to repeat. Don't take me wrong before, you know, we have a great police force, but you have to be the bad cops, because the truth is parents are not doing their job. The kids have to be, they are not going to go inside of a car, but they have to be responsible as well. Parents have to be responsible. And I think we need more communication, maybe from the village, pushing more, do those workshops in school. Parents have to be proactive, do PTAs on some people that are in the PTAs, and you know, force parents to be parents, because at the end of the day, it's their responsibility. Thank you, police, and thank you, the village.
Thank you. My name is Susana Brown, and I am a resident here from more than 20 years. I raised my child here, and I agree with Gustavo. We need to be proactive. So why don't you as a force or the village, why don't you give us the red flags, the tools for us as parents to identify what is going on so we can do a better job? Because right now, I think that we are grasping in the air and we don't have the tools. So if you can teach us, give us a hint, which are the red flags that we have to be aware of? Thank you. Thank you, Joe.
Hi, good evening. One last comment. Closer. So I am a mom of 2 young girls, and I was born here 40 years ago. And I came back to raise them because I felt that the island was safe. But it's not. My kids don't run around alone. I don't trust the police. I have asked the police myself for help, and they have made a U-turn and gone away. And it was a very serious case. There was a teenager jumping up and down on the roof of my building, and the police just left. I don't let my kids even cross the street alone because they are not safe. And I'm a young parent. For those who believe that we are not on top of our children, my kid will never walk alone to school. And I come from a third world country where I was partially raised. And I live here. And I'm tired of hearing you say that there's nothing you can do. Nothing. Not for the scooters, not for the drugs, not for nothing. Because it is my understanding that the lady was peeing in public, in Crandon. That is breaking the law, technically. Why is she still on the loose? You guys had to wait until a lady died to do something about the scooters. Next time, what is it going to take? For a kid to be raped, drugged, kidnapped? So, like, what are you waiting for? Because if you're not going to do the job, like the police force didn't do the job with the scooters, then maybe we have to take a look at our police force. Because you guys also got comfortable. I lived here 40 years ago, and I was out and about because it was very safe. It is not. And whoever thinks this island is safe is seriously blind. You can even cross the street because the cars won't stop. Where's the police force? I almost got run over on Crandon. Where was the police? Enforcing people to obey the law. Where are you guys? If we need more policemen, I'm sure people would love to pay more taxes so we can pay more salaries. No? I mean, if all you need is more men to be able to enforce these laws, then I'm sure there's something in the budget that can be worked out. We pay a lot of taxes here to hear that there's nothing you can do.
Good evening. I live at 251 Galen, where these individuals live. I'm also a school teacher at Key Biscayne Elementary. The children have told me they're afraid. I'm mostly here because the president of our association has asked me to come. So if anybody had any reporting to do, we have 2 attorneys working now to try to work on the case to solve the problem. So if anyone has something to report, I have the names of the attorneys, the emails. If you'd like to email them, hopefully we can work collectively to find a solution. And I am worried about the young lady with mental health issues, that something is going to happen to her. So I don't know what caused her to go to Mercy Hospital, but I don't know who's the one who has to say, who bruised you, who wounded you, how did you end up in the hospital, and how can we protect her? She obviously cannot take care of herself. So if anyone has anything to report that they've seen, we have 2 attorneys at the building. We're relying on the police, but we're also trying to help ourselves by hiring attorneys. Thank you.
Good evening, thank you. Michelle Esteves, I am a resident of the island for 45 years. I think that this evening meeting is extremely helpful. The goals that you have set up for this meeting this evening is a great start. I think that you have to go back to the drawing table tomorrow and trying to develop a plan, a program, and those goals that you have this evening, and share with the community. What is going to be the steps? Especially provide tips on how to keep our children safe. I think that a lot of has coming out tonight. So don't wait until something else happens. And you have the venues to communicate. Even, for people to share on the chats, put it in different platforms that we can share. If you send it to the building managers, we can share with all the buildings, all the residents. You, the police, have the contacts with all the building managers, all the president council. I mean, we have many organizations here that we have emails. So share with us, and we can move forward quickly. Those goals are great. Citizen Crime Watch is a great start. I offer it to you at the meeting to help you with the e-bikes and all the ban. I was going to my office on Sunday afternoon when was games at the Village Green, and I stopped because the weather was beautiful, and I enjoyed to have these older kids playing football. And there was a kid around the Village Green and an e-bike. No, e-scooter, I'm sorry. So they were around and around. So I get off my golf cart and I waited for them to come and I told them to stop and I explained it to them. So again, we are here to help you. You don't have the manpower to do. Call the community for special meetings. Call us and let us know and teach us how to. Crime Watch is a great organization. I remember maybe 40 years ago, I was the head of Crime Watch before we were our own village because of the amount of crime that we were having, and worked perfectly. We really stop and help. So we are offering you to help. Don't push us out, don't ignore us. And those goals are great again. Let's have it in a week or 4 days, all the bullet points from those goals. So we are here to be part of you and part of the community. Thank you.
Louisa, before she goes, before you go real quick. And so, Michelle, thank you for bringing that up. And I've been taking notes here. And what I'm going to do at the end of this meeting, when we wrap it up, I'm going to list out what I think I've heard. And if I've missed something, please let me know. So when we're done, I've got about 20 points that I think you guys have brought up. Probably can consolidate some of them. I might have missed something. If there's something that you want us to put into this plan, let us know. So thank you, Michelle. Louisa.
Hi, thank you very much for coming out. My name's Louisa Conway. We want to thank, I think, everybody in the community that came out tonight. We unfortunately had to do a petition to try to get a town hall. And the reason was because a lack of communication from you folks. This was really your job. So I want to thank the entire community for stepping up, for showing up, and for speaking up. Because these are our children. We live here. And a couple of the reasons we put this petition together was not to just complain and not just criticize. We actually gave suggestions. We wanted this panel. We met with Chief Sosa, who was very nice to meet with us and his command team and talk to us. So I think what I hope you guys take away from this is that this community is civic-minded. You saw it tonight. They care. That's why they come here. We're Key Biscayners. We love this island. But our children are our most prized possession. Because for many of us, the reasons that we live on this island is for them. This is their island. This is their home. We are going to leave them their inheritance. And this is this island. So one of the things that I would like to see happen is any tips that you could share with us, because unfortunately we didn't get a lot of that, and I think you heard from the parents tonight. What are the red flags? Because we would like to know that. Online issues with gaming. I went to a Pam Bondi. I know Pam Bondi before. This was her big issue. And one of the things that I learned in her workshops was that gaming, the PlayStations, the Xboxes, that's where I learned about the dark web. And it was scary that our kids are on these devices and these predators can find them. They can pinpoint them. So I think going forward for the workshops that the village is going to be hosting, I think we need to start covering some of those topics. We need to make sure to work with the schools. Even for us as the petition organizers, we sent this out to Master Academy, to KBCS, PTA, and any of the teachers we knew to try to get this out. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough time. So I would just suggest for the village, next time, partner with our schools so that the parents can make the time. 6 o'clock is tough. A lot of our kids play sports. One of the things also we'd like for you to consider, like maybe giving tips, a lot of our children on the island do sports. Grooming is very, very concerning for us. And as you know, with the coach issue that came out in the Herald, We need to understand, how do we protect our kids? What should we be saying to them? I'm the mother of 2 athletes. One is in college now. I actually took the time to speak to them. They're 2 girls. They both sailed. And a lot of time, my older daughter had to spend a lot of time with her coach. So I spoke to her. But think about it, for our island, a lot of our kids are doing sports. And we need to be able to give them some safety tips. So I just wanted to say to Manager Williamson, and especially our mayor, thank you so much for putting this together and for listening. I hope going forward you see us as your partner and not your opposition. Thank you so much.
Okay, do we have any more questions tonight? Oh, you want to respond? Thank you. Yes.
When it comes to our children, can you hear me? When it comes to our children, it's the best thing that you need to keep in mind is that children are very unlikely to self-report. So you need to probe. You need to have very, very uncomfortable conversations with your children. And actually, they're not that uncomfortable. We are uncomfortable. So the most important conversations to have with our kids are the most difficult ones. And proper touching, proper conversation, all those topics, you need to address them. My children are 21 and 19. But because of my background and because of what I do for work, and I've heard so many stories of how a child could be abused, physically abused, emotionally, and physically, is very important. There's a common denominator where parents just don't cross that threshold of having these conversations on a regular basis. You're not going to be putting any ideas in their heads. If anything, something might already be stirring in their heads, and seeing mom or dad bringing this conversation up to them, they might feel a little bit more comfortable and say, yes, maybe not to me, but it's happening to my friend, and so on. That's usually how it happens. A child is saying, this is happening to my friend, because the child themselves can't self-report that to their parents, teacher, or to a police officer. So I will be happy, and Tanya will also concur to this. We'll be happy to come back and assist this police department. The chief has my commitment. We can come back and talk about anything that you want us to talk to you about. But going forward, from this moment forward, as a parent, you need to just break down those barriers, because someone is talking to them. Someone is talking to them. Do you understand what I'm telling you? And what you need to know about me, when I come in and I'll do presentations to you, I do not sugarcoat, because it's very important for you to understand your role as a parent in today's world is crucial, because they're coming at our children from all angles, from everywhere. You'd be surprised. When it comes to child abuse, physical child abuse, and so on, it's about access. Who has access to your child? Start there. And start talking to them in the car, where you're taking their bath, where you're eating. You can do hypotheticals, whatever you need to do to start having these conversations on a regular basis. And it's okay for you guys to talk to your children about these things, because like I said, if you don't talk to them, someone else will, okay? So I will be happy to come back whenever you're ready. Tanya and I, and Tanya will address you as well, we'll be happy to come back and talk to you point by point, how to better prevent this, because this is not a 100% preventable crime. Why? Because it's a crime of opportunity. What you can do is limit the opportunity of anyone having access to your children, whether it's in person or whether it's online. Okay? So I'll give the mic to Tanya, and I'll be happy to come back and address that.
So as a task force, we do go out and give presentations to the schools, to the PTAs, to anybody that will have us. We do proactive approaches. We will talk about specific topics. in relation to human trafficking and grooming and signs to look for and who to call. So anybody that wants to have us, we are happy to come take our business cards. On this flyer that I have, there are some signs to look for, some red flags that will help you. The hotline is open to anybody, law enforcement calls, and law enforcement, community members, service providers, teachers, hospitals, social workers, everybody calls, and it doesn't have to be in relation specifically to human trafficking. If you don't know, we're here to help you, so don't be afraid to call. It is also anonymous, so if you just have a question or something you're concerned about, and if it's not in relation to human trafficking, we work with all the community partners that we can refer you to, so that way you can have all the information that you need. Thank you.
And just one more point. Which can, by a show of hands, any one of your children pay for their own cell phones? Anyone? How old is your child?
I have a 28 and a 26-year-old.
Okay. What was that?
And my kids have paid for their own cell phones since they were 13 and above.
Okay, fantastic. But even though, my point is, you can go through your children's phones. Okay? You can take, and what I used to do is in their presence, I would take their phone and review them, everything, in their presence, so they understand that this is not private, this is public. Everything they do here is public. They think that there's if they're in their room with their door closed, that who they're talking to and what they're doing on these phones, no one can see or hear it. But it's very important that you take those little steps to let them know, and a child that has the sense that my mom and my dad or my guardian or whoever's watching is actually watching me, they're going to be more open with you. But these phones, in their presence, you should know their codes. You should know how to navigate what they're doing on here. But that is one important step that you can do as a parent, is to let them know that everyone will be able to see what they're doing on here. And just take the phone in front of them, open it, and go through it with them. What's this? Who's that? What are you doing here? What's this website? What are you doing there? So they understand that there's going to be accountability there as well. And that opens the door. Oh, somebody send me those. And someone had asked me earlier about sexting. It is very important also to talk about that. And I'll be happy to come back and talk to you. That is something that's very common with our children, the exchange from child to child, when they exchange photos and stuff on that level. So just be mindful of that you have full access to these phones, and you should be reviewing these phones in their presence. Okay.
Can I talk just 5 minutes? About the cell phones. You know that now we are using the cell phones to film everything that should be maybe by public cameras. But what is happening now? When the police comes to the building, this couple runs away or hides themselves. And when they leave, they are just going to Grandin and they are back. And it's like there are no cameras, filming. It's only with our phones. And even though that we call the police, nothing happens because they couldn't take them, or they couldn't hear the noises, or the domestic violence, like happened on Friday. She was taken to the Mercy. She's still there. Her apartment was both doors wide open, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So it's like there is no way that we could, prove that this is happening. They are running all the time when the police is coming. So it's like a ridiculous game. We code and they just disappear or hide themselves. And about looking for the arms. If that apartment is full of trash, piles to the ceiling. One bathroom is to the ceiling. They are holding, I think that's the word. When they holding. It's a big problem or sanity. sanitation. And at the same time, they smoke all the time, so it could be a fire. So this is really, really, really like more than red flags. And now, kids in that building, we are more single moms. Our kids comes after school by themselves. Now they are everywhere. They move so fast that now that we are communicating ourselves, they are on the corner, then they are at the lobby, then they are at the pool, at the barbecue, at the laundry room, at the elevator. So it's so fast that they are moving when our kids are there walking by themselves. So like this morning, that was this afternoon. I was so afraid to see a girl taking the elevator, because 2 or 3 days ago happened this with this couple. They put, like 4 days. They put it, and they start pushing buttons like first floor, second floor, and when the doors open, they didn't let them to get out. So imagine if the kids are by themselves in the lobby, like for example, or any of the halls, or in the pool. It's like we can't enjoy our facilities, and this is more than red flags. And we really don't need more reports. There are so many, even myself I have called. And the question is, are you hurt? Anything was stolen? Anything was broken? So there is no case. We can arrest just because you are calling. So we are like completely, abandoned? Like we have no rights, we have no protection, they have all the rights, even though that is like something against our community. What happened with the Trust Bank? They went, they did, things in the bathroom, and what? Nothing happens. What happened with the Big Care salon, beauty salon on the second floor next to the Winn-Dixie? They went there, and they said, sorry, we need the bathroom. They went straight both inside the bathroom for more than 30 minutes. I don't know if they called or not the police. And they were knocking and knocking. When they left, everything was destroyed. They opened all the cabinets. They took everything down. All the bathroom was completely a mess. Everybody, all the customers were so scared. So this is happening every single day. Every single day. This is serious. This is serious. And now that we are documented this by, the cell phone, by the text messages, we need to be documented by the police, because if the attorney needs proof to move this forward quickly, because every day is a day that we are suffering this situation. So we can't wait more and more. We can't wait for another call to the police when they are just playing around the police. And the guy said last night, when the police left, 3 patrons, he went back and he were talking with all the neighbors. And he said, I know how to play with the system. When they take me to the Jackson, I just leave and take a taxi that he doesn't pay, and he's back in the building. When the police comes, they see all the lights of the patrols, of the police cars. They hide themselves. Now you said, no, we look for the arm. How can you look in the arm in the middle of those piles of trash? That guy is always with a backpack under the sweater that has a hoodie sweater. So I wonder what else we need to hear to do something. Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, I want to thank you all for coming. But before we have a little final conversation, I want to thank our group who came here. Now, thank you very much for coming to Key Biscayne. I definitely heard long-term partnership. I think I heard proactive. I've got a whole list of things here today. I'm not going to lead them all, but let me just mention a few of them. Guidelines and initiatives for safety. I heard more cameras and signs about cameras. I talked about, I'm going to the red flag in a second. Don't jump ahead there, Susanna. Red flags and tips on what we do for children. Advocate for prevention. We talked about protocols for vetting. We talked about VROs giving presentations in the community. We talked about possibly putting together a crime watch, and also talking about more school programming. So I'm going to do a call to action to you all. There's more, Andy. I got backside too, so I got a lot of them. But I'm going to do a call to action to you all. Come to me. I'm standing right over here. If you want to be a part of this task force, committee, whatever you want to call it, let's get community involvement. Please come to me. Oop, where'd he go? He only has so many people. Let's reinforce on what they can do. Let's set the conditions so that we can take back our village. So I'm going to stand by over here, and please come by. I'll take your name, and let's see what we can do as a team.
Steve, can you talk about the internal procedures review for vendors and things of that nature? What is being done?
I can do that. I can do that. You took away my call to action, though, Fausto. That call to action is still there, right? Our call to action is still there. So, yes, good question. And, you know, and every organization looks at itself, and, you know, we think about what we can do and what we can do better. And we are currently reviewing all of our vetting processes, whether it's our employees, full-time, part-time, whether it's our contractors, whether it's the employees who work for contractors, whether it's our volunteers, whether it's those who do permit work out in our village green. All of these folks are going to get a much deeper dive. They're going to go looked in much more thoroughly. They're going to have more screening, more process. What we are going to do is we're going to do a examination of our processes internal, and then once we come up with a general program, and it's kind of break out into these 5 categories, a comprehensive review that includes background checks, verifications, and screenings, making sure that we have consistent standards across the board, making sure that we have proactive measures, not reactive measures, and more importantly, that we're transparent and participatory with the village and making sure we get that done. Then, when I get that report back to me, if I feel comfortable with moving that forward, we'll go forward with that. If I feel that we need a third party to come in to reiterate or do a further examination, I'll do that as well. So you have my commitment. We're going to do a thorough review. We're going to go through it step by step by step. Obviously, the first people we're going to look at are those who have close contact with children, those who work in our community center, and those who work in our parks. So that's my commitment to you all. So, okay? Call to action is still there. Don't go away, Fausto.
Bueno.